Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cutting board. Let's do it. I was given this tabletop which I cut down to make cutting boards. I started by cutting the tabletop down to manageable pieces. I could then rip the pieces into strips on the table saw. The tabletop was oak, so I picked up some Meranti from the hardware store and rough cut it to length. The darker tones of the Meranti will be a nice contrast against the lighter oak tones. I picked out the best strips and arranged them in the order I wanted. As the tabletop had finish on it, I sanded the strips with 80 grit sandpaper to remove most of it. I could then glue the strips together, and for this I used Type Bond 3. You could also use Shelley's exterior glue. You just want a glue that is waterproof. You want to try and get the strips as aligned as possible. This will avoid wastage later on. I wiped the excess glue away with a damp cloth, and I put paint tins on top to stop the timber from bowing. 24 hours later I can come back and remove the clamps. I squared the edges on the miter saw and it was ready for the thicknesser. If you don't have a thicknesser, you could always use a belt sander or an orbital sander for this step. The design I went with for this cutting board was a triangle handle. I measured up 350mm and drew a straight line. I then found the centre of that line and also the centre of the top of the board and made a mark. I then measured 20mm each side of the centre mark on the bottom line and 50mm each side of the centre mark on the top line. I could then draw a line to connect the two marks and make my triangle. I then cut this out using a jigsaw. I then used my new Ryobi cordless router and routed over all the edges. I think this could be my new favourite tool in the shop. It's super easy to use and there's no cords to get in the way. I then sanded the board up to 120 grit. Once I get to 120 grit, I wipe the board down with a damp cloth. This will raise the grain. Once dry, I can then sand to a 220 grit. I then apply my cutting board finish. Here I'm using a cutting board finish from Ikea, but you can use any food safe finish. I let the oil soak in for 24 hours. I then wash the board in warm soapy water, and once dry I sand with 600 grit sandpaper and apply another coat of oil. Once this has soaked in for another 24 hours, your cutting board is complete and ready for use. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to hit those subscribe and like buttons below so you don't miss out on my next video. I'll see you next week.